Welcome to episode 1 of Special Needs Life Hacks. Number 1, I'm so excited. This has been kind of a thing that's a long time coming, kind of a God birth dream from a long time back. So we've been really excited about it, especially today. So my name is Melissa Langford, and I blog about abundantly living the simple life at blessedsimplicity.com. And I am a homeschooling mom of 6 kids. 3 of those kids would be considered special needs, one who is specifically very medically fragile right now. And she has, her name's Phoebe. She's a little 3-year-old girl. She has Joubert syndrome. And Joubert syndrome is basically an abnormality of the brain that affects the cerebellum, where all of the cerebellar vermis is not there. And of course, your cerebellum affects balance and cognition, lots of gross and fine motor movements, speech, nearly everything that you do. She has a G-tube in place, GJ tube, and she's completely dependent upon that for her nutrition. And she's a host of other residual diagnoses. And right now, my latest project is this Special Needs Life Hacks that I share with my friend Jess Newland.
We should say Phoebe. Absolutely. I hear an echo. Do you hear that?
I do.
I don't know why. Oh, it went away.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Phoebe's absolutely adorable. My son Zachary adores her, and they love to watch each other on Facebook. So hello, I am Jessica. I am from the beautiful state of Colorado. I am a mom of 4. My oldest is 17, and then down to my youngest, Zachary, is 5, and he is my special needs kiddo. So we've been on this journey for 5, almost 6 years now. Zachary has a syndrome called Lowe syndrome, Lowe, L-O-W-E. I always say like the store, Lowe's. Lowe syndrome basically affects the brain, the eyes, and the kidneys. He's very developmentally delayed. He's more like a 1-year-old, is still learning to walk, very nonverbal. The biggest, scariest issue is, of course, his kidneys. So we fight to get those to work the way they should and to continue to work the way they should. But he is a beautiful blessing, and we just love having him in our family. So today we are actually going to talk about prepping for doctor visits. I knew nothing. To me, doctor visits were making the yearly well checks and taking your kids to see the doctor and get weighed and get measured, or taking them for antibiotics when they have an ear infection. You just make the appointment and you go. I was completely clueless to the world that we now live in. I don't even know. Zachary must have a good 9, 10 specialists. 5 of those we have to drive a distance to get to, and then we're bused that several are in town. So when I think of prepping for doctor visits, I'm thinking of like those major appointments that we have seems like they're always staggered. I feel like I go through seasons where there are so many appointments, and then we have a lull, and then it picks up again. And he has all that in addition to, like you probably all have, the occupational therapy, the speech therapy, the physical therapy. The list is long, and I've learned a lot along the way. So we're going to talk about how to maybe prepare for those visits. Do you want to say what appointments you face?
So yeah, we had a little bit of experience before Phoebe. One of our biological daughters, we adopted Phoebe, but one of our biological daughters was born with significant cardiac defects, but she was only fragile for a couple of years. She is doing much better now. She saw some spinal issues, but we knew what it was at that point to do therapy and to have a few specialists. So we walked down that road just a little bit, but nothing could have compared us for Phoebe and the list that we were handed of these are the specialists that she already sees. And she needs appointments with even more. We live in East Tennessee and in Knoxville, right around Knoxville. And we have some home physicians that we see here. Our pediatrician is just a couple of miles from us. We have some folks that we see at our local children's hospital. But a lot of our care has recently moved to Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which is about 3.5 hours from us. So like right now, we're planning next week. We'll be there for 3 days. So we just drive up on Tuesday morning and we stay, and we don't come home until Thursday evening. And it's not that she's going to be admitted to the hospital while we're there, but there are just so many specialists to see her and so many visits that rather than driving 3.5 hours each way, we just stay for the 3 days and pack in all the appointments that we possibly can. She sees about 13. Well, actually, the list was about 13 before we added the Cincinnati folks, and some of those are kind of doubling up. So, and that, I mean, that's our providers total. So that adds in.
I don't know if I've ever really counted. It's just
don't do it.
I should. At one point, I thought, no, I wish I would have saved all the hospital bracelets and bands over the years. Looking back, I know I remember I saved the first few and then I quit, but I think it would have been fun to like save those all and see how many we have.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but a lot of people save, the very first hospital bracelet when the baby's born. We would just be kind of linking them together, and probably the other moms here too, just as a chain. There'd be like little bunting.
I know. I wish I would have. It would have been fun. So we wanted to dive into talk about different parts of preparing for the doctor visit and then even the day of. So I'm going to start with the week before. And I know that seems, no, actually first I'm going to back up. Make sure you know when your appointment is, first off. I opened up actually my March calendar for next month yesterday, and I was like, oh shoot, I don't have all these in here. So my first tip is know when your appointments are, because I have forgotten appointments. I don't know about you, but I have. But a lot of my prep begins early, and here's why. When we first started down this journey with Zachary, we would go up to Denver to, like, we'd have all these doctors in one day. And I noticed a trend that I would get there and I would walk away with not a lot of information. And basically I left with, well, let's test for this, let's test for that, we'll test for that, and we'll call you. And I'm like, wait a minute, why did I drive all the way up here for no answers? So, and especially because he has a lot with his kidney issues, there's a lot of tests that we can get out of the way in advance. And so I kind of learned to beat the system a little bit. And at first they kind of questioned me when I would call, but I try to call like a week and a half before if I don't already have the lab orders in hand and say, what do you want? I have kidney and hematology that are in the same building. So I usually call hematology, even though they might not be on the same day, and say, what do you want? Because I only want to poke my son once. And so a week before his appointment, will go and get all of the labs or the x-rays or ultrasounds, whatever it is, in advance. So that when I get to that appointment, they actually are usually really excited and surprised, which I don't know why more people don't do that. They're like, oh, we already have these results. I'm like, well, yeah, because I want to know answers now. So that's what I do the week before. I'm getting all those tests. Zachary always has to have urine samples. So I have all my supplies at home. So I get those before we even take him for his blood work, so that I can just hand it to him instead of them make me wait to get the urine there. So those are kind of some of the things I do a week in advance, just to save time, to save my frustration, so that they can have the answers right away. So that's what I do kind of a week in advance.
Well, I probably should, but I don't start planning that early. But the night before really starts my big planning process. With Phoebe's feeds now, she's not on a continuous feed anymore. She's on boluses with a PBG diet that's made by G-Tube. It's helped her. It's been phenomenal. But it has to be more planned. She has to do 4 boluses a day, and they have to be spaced out every 4 hours. And she has to have a water bolus in the middle, but not less than an hour from a food bolus. It's kind of a dance. But once you start that process of the day, once you give that first bolus, then you're locked in to that schedule for the rest of the day. So I look at the time of our doctor's visit, and if I can, I try to figure out what time I need to get up in the morning the next day to give the first bolus to space it out to where the doctor's visit sort of falls in the middle of that 4-hour window. So I don't necessarily have to feed her while we're there or get terribly off schedule, because if we push too much, we could miss a whole feeding for the day, and that's a fourth of her daily calories. So the doctor's visits sort of dictate what time I get up the next day, even how soon I start my day. We have 5 other kids besides Phoebe that are staying here at home, and I have to make sure that there's somebody here to stay with them. So I try to go ahead and think about that. The night before might be a little short notice, but we're blessed to have a great support system. My parents live really close by, next door, really, so they can, if I forget to mention it earlier, they can come. And I try to lay out clothes and go ahead and pack the diaper bag the night before, get everything done so that I can focus on schooling and whatnot while I'm home, and just be able to grab everything and go. Maybe print out any kind of forms or paperwork, especially if it's a new doctor's office, or if I haven't been there in a year, which is rare, but anything that they would want printed out and filled out, because trying to wrestle Phoebe in a waiting room at the same time, I'm trying to write, I'm sure it looks like a 3-year-old right sometimes. So I try to get that done so I can just kind of focus on her while we're in the waiting room. And plan, if it's a late appointment, go ahead and plan dinner, stick it in the oven, set the timers for my other kids, and plan, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for them that can be done super easy since I'm not going to be there. And that's about it the night before. Do you want to talk about what to pack?
Yeah, my night before is slightly different, partly because you homeschool and I don't. Well, I have one home. So for me, I have to make sure, especially those trips that are like all day, I got to make sure I know how my kids are getting to school and how they're getting home. So arranging all of that. I usually wait too long, and then I'm scrambling like, oh shoot, who's picking up Daniel, or how's Travis getting home, or where's Kaylee going to go for the day, because she's the one at home. So we don't usually, we sometimes bring Kaylee, but usually I'm finding another family that she can hang with and do her schoolwork. But the biggest thing is the boys, making sure they're getting home. My night before also piggybacks to the lab work. I don't know if you guys use or have access to an online system, but all of our labs get done through our children's hospital. So I usually the night before log into our account and make sure all the lab work results are there. I kind of like to familiarize myself with the results and the numbers, even though I don't understand all those names and numbers. Sometimes I can get a grasp for what's changed. And if you don't mention something, I'm going to be ready to ask about it. So I try to make sure I do that the night before as well, just to make sure everything's there. And arranging kids. Yeah. And then packing the diaper bag kind of depends on the day. If it's a day trip and we're leaving early, I want to make sure it's packed the night before. I also want to say hello because I see some more people have popped in. So feel free to introduce yourself. I would love to know who are your kiddos and what are you facing? We're hoping to be able to build some community over this series that we're going to try to do this year. So yes. Welcome. So let's chat about what we pack. What's in your bag, Melissa?
It's full and it's heavy.
I hear you.
I don't even use a standard diaper bag anymore, really. We could probably do a whole show just unpacking and repacking our diaper bag. But yeah, I had to go outside the typical diaper bag box. But I always take with me a pre-printed med list, and I know you do yours a little bit differently, Jess, which is cool. But I take mine pre-printed. I make sure that I have the concentration listed on there because those are different a lot with our kiddos. If your pharmacy compounds things that aren't necessarily liquid, the concentration can always be different. Insurance cards, list of upcoming appointments and testing, my weekly log of symptoms. I just keep a little log each day written down of what's going on with Phoebe, and a list of all of her other providers. I take feeding supplies. We carry her feeding, her food in in a mason jar in a little insulated cooler that slips down in her bag, and then extensions, always extra extensions of all sizes, just in case, because we typically use the really fat bolus tube extension, and you can't use those for, we could, it'd be hard to get enough meds to fill one of those up and push it through. So a short little med extension is good. Oh, hey, Rachel, I just saw that. Soon be fostering to adopt a little girl who has arthrogryposis. I'll have to look that one up. That's not familiar to me, but it sounds arthro. Cool. Nice to have you here. And Kelsey, hey.
Kelsey has a son with the same syndrome as Zachary. We are low.
Oh, wow. We love Zachary too. My Phoebe, she loves it. She'll sit and watch the screen and she'll wave even if it's not live. And she says, "Hi, Zach." And he just doesn't, she doesn't know why he doesn't talk back. But also in the diaper bag, obviously changes of clothes, things for me, we tend to group appointments so that we're not gone from the house more than we have to. And I try to always have my doctor's appointments. I have certain time slots on my schedule that those are when we can do doctor's appointments, unless it's a doc that just won't see patients during that time. So I've usually got snacks in there for myself, some water, pick up coffee on the way. And then even like some little munchy things for Phoebe that she can put in her mouth and taste, toys, and then usually like a pen and paper to take notes while the docs are talking. But that's the gist of it. I mean, there's the obvious diapers and wipes and things like that, but to make sure that I've always got, because even if it's a doc that we've seen recently, and then they send us someplace else or whatever, sometimes they still want all those lists that I haven't given them before.
Yeah. My bag always has the iPad. I have said so many times, what did parents do before technology? I don't know. Because Zachary needs the iPad. In the doctor's office, it's such a good distraction for him. So not only do I have the iPad charger or iPad, but I have the charger and I bring a charging bank to like recharge it if needed. It's just a must. In fact, last appointment, I forgot it. And he's like, "Papa, Papa," which means iPad. And I felt so bad. I do something a little different than Melissa. And I always pack my phone with photos of all of Zach's meds. So before the trip, before we leave, I just pull out his row of meds and I snap a shot because inevitably something has changed and this doc doesn't know, even though a lot of what we do is in the same hospital system, somehow it doesn't always update. So I make sure that I have photos of everything, and I've been thanked by doctors again and again. What a great idea. So I try to make sure every time I just retake photos so that it's the most current and I'm not sifting through my phone for a photo. So I always take the iPad, photos of all his meds. Let's see, Zachary can leak through an outfit in no time. In fact, at school yesterday, he went through like 5 changes of clothes, which is ridiculous. So I have to pack a lot of spare clothes for him. I always try to make sure I have contact info for all the other doctors, just in case they don't have it. I feel like I'm always needing to enter a phone number for the kidney doctor who's not in their system and I don't have, I just want to make sure I have it. And then Zachary is also on a G-tube. He does eat by mouth, so I will take a few snacks, but I need to make sure the pump's ready because he'll probably need a feed in the car. I many times have forgotten a G-tube extension and I get so mad at myself because everything's ready, but I can't get it in him. So that's one thing I always double check now, learning from my mistakes. Water. Zachary does drink water and a lot of it. So those are the main things that I cannot live without. I also check the time and when I need to leave, and I allot a half hour in there for a Starbucks break. I've got to walk in the hospital with coffee to help us survive. So that's a must. I usually try to plan that into my time.
Well, when we can talk about some. Did you hear an echo?
Yeah, start it again.
Okay, I'm gonna close some things behind me. It went away when you did it a minute ago. Is that better?
A little, I think.
Okay. It may just catch up. So questions that we typically have on hand, I like to just know what I want to ask or know what I want to get out of each visit. I almost have like a little goal for the reason why I'm coming to see you is, and sometimes it's just because it's follow-up and we have to stay current with that doc in case we're admitted to the hospital or whatever. They need to know where we are in the process of everything. But referrals, refills, and equipment are always my three biggies. If we need a referral to a different doctor or a referral for a test, a referral to a different clinic, we go ahead and ask for them while we're there, ask them to do it. Sometimes it's a little bit better and a little bit easier to get it done when you're kind of standing there or you're in the office, or you can ask the doctor for it and he can make sure and list it on your checkout sheet. Refills, typically the pharmacies are pretty good about calling, especially if they know you and you're there, and every time you leave this bag, this huge bag of stuff. Yeah, that's what, like, our pharmacist was on our little Christmas candy delivery list this year because we were there so much. And then needs for supplies and equipment. Especially with the GIs, and our physiatrists, I'm always asking, hey, is there something new? Because the reps come to them when there are new pieces of equipment. And we won't know if we're just using the same thing we've always done until we maybe talk to another mom, hear from them, see what they're using and what they're doing. So I always typically ask, hey, is there anything different that's out there besides what we're doing now? Is there something that would make this process a little bit easier? Or, hey, are we getting the max that our insurance would pay for of all of our supplies? And then equipment, if there's something new, or if there's something out there, I know like orthotics change all the time. And there are always advancements for kids who need help with their feet and legs. And then, for instance, Phoebe's gait trainer, we asked about that and we just said, is there anything better? And it turns out there was something almost half the weight than the one she had, which made it much more maneuverable. So, and then just questions about the symptoms that we're having, and questions about, anything else on the list of symptoms, even though it may not seem GI related. Just, hey, could any of the meds be causing this, or we're seeing this regularly? But just having those ready when I get there and having the list in front of me while the doc is sitting there helps me to not let them get out of the room until I've gone down, the list of questions. And they seem a little bit more receptive too. I think if they know that you're prepared and you've got your list together, most of our docs seem to really appreciate that you've taken the time before you get there to prepare, and you know what you need to ask them. And they, to me, seem more willing to spend a little bit of extra time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I always feel like I'm frequently on the spot. Like, do you have any questions? And I'm like, I don't know. So I like that, planning ahead, thinking about what you would ask. Zachary sees a rehab doctor. And so that's the one that frequently will help with getting supplies or new medical equipment. So especially for those appointments, I'm thinking, okay, what would I want around? What is anything that I've seen that I think I would want, and kind of walk in knowing what I'm going to ask about or ask for. So we just did that last week, and they're going to get him a special chair. So it's nice to think ahead on those questions or what you would want to know. But yeah, I never knew there was so much to going to the doctor, but there is.
I think we talked about this earlier, just knowing where you're going. Our medical facilities change so much. I think I told you before, Jess, that we walked into the normal place always went before for one of our offices, and there was just a big note on the door that said this office has moved to, 2 buildings over, and we had no idea. And of course we were running in just right on time, and it was a nice hike across to the other building. And I would say maybe talk to other moms if the doctor is new. There are lots of Facebook communities popping up, even like local communities. And I like to get an idea of who the doctor is and what kind of reputation they have with good moms, before I get there. And that's about all that I do ahead of time. And do you guys have any questions or any thoughts, any trouble with or we'll listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready for some more. I was thinking earlier today, the biggest thing that I learned in the beginning as I went through all the doctor's visits is I learned which ones were typically on time and which ones were just usually running behind and late. So I would know which ones I needed to plan more for time, more waiting room time for. And that's hard. Like, I think for our kiddos, waiting room time, when they're out of their own environment and they're, they don't have all the comforts of home right there, and they can't really just get down and run around because you never know whose germs they're sharing or picking up. Waiting room time is the absolute worst for us, especially, now that we're a little bit more mobile than we were. I dread the waiting room, but I learned really quickly which docs were late. And then that tells me how close I can pack in appointments too. Like I know that this one doc, I'm going to spend a good 45 minutes in the waiting room, and then he's going to take a little while to get in there, and then it's going to be a really long appointment. So I know that I can't put anything within like 2 hours of that particular visit.
I never realized how exhausting that is. Like, I don't know about you all, but after a day going to appointments, I am tired. And I feel like I did nothing but sit around, but man, it's exhausting. I'm ruined for the rest of the day typically. So kudos to all you mamas who go through all of this. It's a lot. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. So maybe we should tell you where you can find us. Should we do that? So let's see. I write at jessnewland.com. Our family also has a YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you search Newland Chronicles, we have started sharing some videos of our days and our stories. So those are the main two places that you can find me.
And I blog at blessedsimplicity.com. And I don't have a YouTube channel. I've not been that brave yet. This is pretty awesome. But we do have a Facebook group that we're starting around the Life Hacks webinars, so that if you have questions that maybe we can't answer, or maybe you can connect with other moms in a similar situation. But if you just go to Facebook and search Special Needs Life Hacks, or you can go to jessnewland.com or blessedsimplicity.com, and the current blog post for the day, I know there's a link in mine already there, and Jess will probably put one in hers. We can link you to the Facebook group, so you can jump in there, and it's a little bit easier to chat and ask some questions. And then not next month, but our next episode 2, which is going to be on February the 23rd, on another Thursday, the same time, 1:30, will be about storing supplies and equipment. Yeah, the dreaded supply delivery.
Another thing I knew nothing about. You can also come back to this video. So what we're going to do is we have a Special Needs Life Hacks YouTube channel, and I will get you all that link in our posts and on our Facebook group. So this will be able to be rewatched on YouTube, as well as we'll put it into our posts with this topic, so that you guys can rewatch it there and share it. And just hopefully it's an encouragement to other parents who maybe even just starting the journey with doctor visits and are clueless, like I was.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing, but yeah, that should be great. But thank you guys so much. We're so happy that you guys were here for episode 1, and hopefully this will continue to grow and be a blessing. Feel free to share it around, and thank you guys.
Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.
Bye.